It would be a bit tricky to show you all how to do the palatal, but we'll try our best. See if we can zoom in a bit more, and hopefully that works. So yeah, let's wait maybe another 5 minutes, let more people join in, and then we'll possibly begin. All right, with light. Okay, majority are saying with the light. So we'll start with the light. Again, just a bit of introduction about myself. My name is Murtaza Ahmed Maktoum. Normally people know me as Dr. Mac. A lot of other of my Instagram followers, if they're watching this video, I usually teach for the Australian Dental Council exam. So I will be talking more on that exam. If we're talking a lot about the criteria and if you're a bit confused where I'm talking about, it's more about what the exam says. So I'm not talking about or not showcasing, what the clinical, in a normal clinical scenario, what we'll do. We'll just talk about a normal PFM, what we do in the exam. All right, so let's begin. We're just doing tooth number 21, which if someone's dental student watching from the US, it's tooth number 9 according to the universal. In Australia, we normally used FDI. So it's tooth number 21. I think I chose this central incisor because the only thing is this is the one in the center. So I think it'd be more accessible for everybody to watch that clearly. I think someone's requesting for me to close the messages. I think you cannot close the message on Instagram live. So I cannot stop them. But the thing I can do is maybe push this a bit down so the messages don't come in the way. So if someone hasn't seen my putty video, to start the PFM, we need to start making a putty. If you haven't seen it, my page is ADC Help with Dr. Mac. The link is in my Instagram bio as well. If it's hard for you to find it, you can go there. It's video number 1. Without the putty, I think it would be really hard for you, especially when you're beginning to do a crown preparation. So always start with a putty. I have made a descriptive video on my page. So if you still haven't seen it, go watch video number 1 and it will make your life a lot easier. Again, if you're just beginning, I would say make sure you use the putty. a lot after you just getting used to it and you're more comfortable. You can do it without as well. But again, putty is a good guide. It's always beneficial to use it. With Instagram Live, you only have, say, about 40 minutes. Instagram's going to cut us off. So I would be doing it a quick way today. And if Instagram cuts us off, I can just start another live video. So usually what I prefer is try to go, say, about 2.3 or 2.4. So you're dead safe, yeah? You don't need to worry that maybe I was under reduced or not. Let's see if I can zoom it a bit more here. I'm doing a lower molar or upper molar, either a canine or a central incisor. I always start with the occlusal reduction or the incisal reduction. Then I go to the buccal or labial reduction. Then I go to the palatal reduction, then the interdental, and then I merge everything together. So this is my sort of like way of doing a crown prep. I follow the occlusal, incisal, labial or buccal, lingual, palatal, interdental, proximal, and merge all together. This is my way. Again, a lot of people do proximal first, some do buccal, palatal first, occlusal in the end. It's your comfort level, as I always suggest. So if you feel that's more important, you can do that. Okay, it's all good. So first thing what I normally do, again, anytime you feel it's not clear, just send some messages and I will try my best to make it a bit more clearer, okay? Again, it's a bit hard for me as well, guys, because it's Instagram Live. So, it's really hard for me to see if I'm prepping on it, but I'll try my level best to, make sure majority of the people can see it properly, okay? So the first thing I do is, which are not the depth grooves. Depth grooves are more for the reduction. There's something I give just as a demarcation point. Someone who has taken my demos, they know that. So the compressor makes a lot of noise. So whenever I'm trying to speak, I'll try to close this off. Now this is more like a demarcation point, because when we see the criteria, as I always explain everyone, under reduction is the worst thing you can do. So try to always be a bit over. With this satisfactory, you can stay between 2 to 3 millimeters. So people try to stay at 2 millimeters or 2.1. I always suggest stay a bit over, try to stay safe. So usually what I prefer is try to go, say, about 2.3 or 2.4. So you're dead safe, yeah? You don't need to worry that maybe I was under reduced or not. Let's see if I can zoom it a bit more here. Okay, so these are not the depth groove. This is just a bit of a guideline for me as a bit of a labial sort of like guide. Because what I suggest and what I tell everyone is that when we take a fulcrum to do a crown prep, we take it on a hard tissue, not a soft tissue, because soft tissue is not reliable. Likewise, when we say a lot of people rely completely on the putty, I do not agree with that. The problem there is the putty can bend, and I'm not sure how good technique you have followed. So putty is never a very reliable tool. Okay, you can never be dead sure that your putty was good. So a lot of people check with the putty and they say, okay, it's 2 millimeters, but maybe it was a bit less or a bit more. So I always suggest relying on the hard tissue, which is the tooth. So this demarcation point, I'm not sure if you guys can see it clearly or not, but I usually try to give it 2 millimeters there. So by the time I do my occlusal reduction and this demarcation is gone, that gives me an idea, dead sure that, I have reduced it to 2 millimeters and I haven't gone under. Instead of checking from the putty, I will 2.5 my initial depth grooves has to be 2 millimeters. So by the time I finish, polish and everything, you will end up 0.4 to 0.5 millimeters more. Okay, depends on your handwork and stuff, but try to have a margin of 0.4 millimeters. Okay, so if I say that my final incisal, that I like to keep it 2.3, 2.4, my initial depth grooves would be 1.9, 1.8. So by the time I finish, polish everything, it will automatically be 2.3. Okay, so that's a very important point. Okay, once I've done the depth grooves and I know that, the incisal reduction is good, you can proceed with balancing it off. Another thing, if I talk about the basics, after you do so many of them, you get used to it. But in the beginning, the last video I shared on YouTube as well, it was a bit of how to finish it off. So I would suggest you all should practice this motion, intermittent motion. Because we see as soon as you go this, it's hard for you to control it. But as soon as you go intermittent motion, it's a lot easier for you to control the motion, okay? So try intermittent motion and you would see that automatically you have a better hand control once you keep on doing it, okay? But again, the more you do it, the more you get comfortable, and then you can, and then a bit more straighter, more on the gingival side, okay? As I can still see the screen as well. So if any questions, keep throwing them and we can discuss at the end, okay? So you guys don't need to record it, screen record and stuff. I know how the way to save it. So hopefully as soon as I finish this, give me an option. I'll save it with you and upload it on YouTube or Facebook. So just focus on the learning today. Try not to record and stuff, because the more you try and focus on the recording and stuff, you will miss the actual crisp of it, okay? The learning. Now, I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not, but the initial demarcation that I gave, tiny bit still remaining there, tiny bit still remaining there, tiny bit still remaining there. This suggests that maybe I'm still a bit under 2, but I'm almost there, 1.9 and stuff. But this is the best way to check it. This time you keep on checking with the putty as well. However, the tooth, the hard tissue is the best guide for us, because this never changes, right? But the putty can bend, or the way you make it, the technique can go wrong, but the tooth can never go wrong. So always depend on the hard tissue, okay? Now I'll start with the buccal labial grooves. Normally we always have a bit of a secondary plane going on, or the tooth is just a bit turning more towards the incisal, so we never cut in a single plane. A lot of people cut it straight. The tooth is straight. You never cut straight, so you follow the tooth inclination. So when you give the grooves, exactly we will follow the inclination, right? So we will try to give labial grooves, depth grooves similar on this inclination, and then a bit more straighter, more on the gingival side. Okay, triple check before you move forward. Once you do so many without even checking the product, I can see how much measurements I'm going. But for you, make sure you stop, check, double check, triple check, but do not keep going like this. Do not keep flying the way I'm doing. Okay, once you get comfortable, you can, but the initial stages, do not do that. Okay, we want to produce a good work. Do not focus on the time in the beginning. Once you are at a good pace, then you can do as good work or as quickly as possible. But in the start, if you focus on the time, the actual tooth not going to be what we want. Okay, so grooves are there. Best way to check the reduction is from this view. Look in my mirror. A lot of people check like this and they always go wrong because they look from the side and they don't know how the preparation or the depth groove measurement is. So the best way to check is look in the mirror. It's exactly going to show you how many millimeters have you cut, but this is the angle that you see. The black line is still not in. It's almost nearly touching the black, so it's 1 millimeter depth groove there. So by the time I finish polish, we'll definitely go 1.2, 1.3. All right, so this is the way to check it. You never check from the side like this. Okay, you always go wrong. Always with the help of a mirror from that incisal occlusal view. You'll exactly know how much depth cuts you have given. Okay, now when we talk about symmetrical cut, or to avoid asymmetry in the preps, I've seen a lot of work when I do assessments and stuff. The mesio-buccal or mesio-labial is 1.2, distal labial is 1.1 or 1.3, 1.2. A lot of asymmetry. To avoid that, you again take the guide of the tooth and do not do all together. Textbook suggests us to half and half. Never go all preparing together, always do half and half. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what I'm doing now. Again, inclination, make sure you're following the tooth structure. Best way to check it with the help of a dead burr, run it through adjacent teeth as well, and then you'll exactly know where how the inclination is moving. With the help of a dead burr, once you notice it, you come back here and follow the exact movement. Because we've already done the depth groove, you won't check it here, but adjacent tooth are the best way to check normally. Okay, so I check this, not straight, tiny bit this is my guideline. Now I'm gonna exactly keep my handpiece like that. I hope everybody can hear me properly. Just let me know just in case you can't, or there's a bit of a this problem with the connection or something. Okay, again, intermittent motion. Initially with the beginning stages, I would advise everybody to follow this. Do not go like this. It would be hard for you to maintain the good hand control. Okay, so always try to go a bit intermittent motion. I call this the waving motion. All right, does it make sense now what I'm doing? I'm trying to do half and half. Again, putty is never an accurate representation of what we want to do or what we want to achieve. But the tooth structure never lies, right? Because it never changes. So now I can check again from the occlusal view and I exactly know how much I've cut. And then I follow it along with the smooth all these things like people do. By the time I polish, I'll be like, oh, I'm 1.8 millimeters now. Because I tried to finish off in the stage that was not required. So right now, our main aim is to just reduce, don't focus on the roughening and stuff, okay? We'll merge it properly later. Right now, just focus on the measurements. So this is a bit so we never prepare the tooth in a straight line. As soon as you go to the proximal, you lift it up. You lift it up. Very important. Otherwise, you'll end up like this. This is equigingival or subgingival because the margin's there, and this would be 1 millimeter high. So make sure, again, this is very important, okay? All right. Tricky to see the palatal. I'm gonna zoom in as much as I can. What you want with the palatal, I do understand it'd be a bit of a problem for you all to see, but whatever we can, I can show you. I'm just trying my best here, okay? Once I've done with the footy burr, the cingulum area, palatal grooves there, then I'm gonna take that needle burr, the saved or not, but let's have some finger crossed, yeah, and then let's hope for the best, because it's just, you say that it's curved in. Now it's a bit more balanced. With the help of a back of the tweezer, put it back in like that. That's the way you put a tweezer in. Never with your finger. Never ever with your finger. Remove a bit more on the inside and make sure there's a tiny thin shell remaining the entire time. Turning it to the proximal, because I've put a wedge there, it's not very clear, but it's continuous mark. So I think I dropped my footy burr. found the palette footy burr. Okay, so the best way, again, this is very important, guys. The best way to check the taper is to put this burr here. And if this bends inside, that means, and you feel that the burr is straight, that means you have a dot 3-degree taper. If you see my burr is coming out, that means I don't have a 3-degree taper at the moment. If I feel that my burr is in and now the burr looks really exactly see what I've done. See this continuous overall, if you see the depth and everything is just a clean margin. So guys, this is the basic crown prep. I can keep going and going and going and keep correcting it. However, you need to know the basics, and the basics are exactly like that to make a good crown prep. Okay, so the basics stay there. I can keep going, keep correcting a tiny bit, but again, Instagram's gonna stop us very soon with that. These are just a bit of basic tips that I'm telling you all how to do them. Working with the putty, I'm used to it. I've done lots of them. I can look at the tooth. I can tell that it's 1.2, 1.1. It's less reduced there. But whenever you guys are practicing, even in the exam, make sure check it with the putty. Again, putty may not be very reliable, but it gives you an idea. It gives you a very good idea, especially when you're going under reduced. And special problem here with the central incisors, because with the ADC teeth, they're so wrong. The incisors, sometimes they're completely like extruding out or like intrusions there. So your cingulum's literally touching the margin, and that's what problems with a lot of people. So just make sure, just try to improvise in such scenarios, yeah. All right, let me show you guys now. So if you see closely, you'll exactly see what I've done. See this continuous margin? There's a bit of a supragingival margin going here, a bit uneven. We can correct this, no problem. But overall, if you see the depth and everything, is just a clean margin. No uneven. Another thing very important is whenever you do the palatal or the lingual, you have to bring the cingulum down a bit as well. I've seen people when they do a crown prep, the cingulum remains high as well. We need to make a smaller version of the actual tooth. So make sure whenever you do the tooth occlusal reduction, say about 3 millimeter, the cingulum and the whole tooth goes down alongside with that. You cannot do that the cingulum stays there and you just reduce it. So you have to go down alongside with that. These are just a bit of basic tips that I'm telling you all how to do them. Rest you can improvise, you can just keep practicing, and you can do an amazing job. It shouldn't be a problem, okay? So we are nearly there. I just need to check the measurements. Let's check with the putty. Let's show you all as well how it looks like from the putty. Then we can have a bit of a compare and contrast going on. So let's show you guys there. Can you see the uniform reduction? Palatal, again, it's a bit less. So if you see palatal, say about this is dot 0.5. So what will happen is my provisional crown is going to break now. So what you have to do in certain situation, if you look at the putty like I, so 2 days margin as well. So make sure you're nice and easy. Okay, you can still keep going and keep playing with it for another hour or half an hour or 20 minutes, but this is the base.